From K2 News, this is breaking news.
That breaking news, a judge temporarily blocks the Trump administration from sending any National Guard troops to Oregon. Just hours ago, President Donald Trump ordered 400 members of the Texas National Guard to be deployed into Oregon, Illinois, and other places in the country. Thank you so much for joining us for K2 News at 11. I'm Tanvi Verma. It's been quite a legal back and forth. Earlier today, the president deployed about 200 California National Guard members to Portland. Now, a judge ruling that the deployment must stop. Meanwhile, tensions continue to rise outside the ICE facility in South Portland. That's where we can find K2's Jennifer Singh. Jen, how's it looking out there?
Well, there's still a pretty decent crowd with a decent amount of noise tonight. There's probably upwards of more than 100 people out here tonight. And over the past half hour or so, a lot of the attention has shifted a block over from the facility where people on both sides, both for and against the deployment of federal troops, are there talking with each other. We have seen some incidents break out between the two groups. Now, like you said, things have escalated within the last 2 to 3 hours. So far, we've seen at least 3 people taken inside the facility and also saw pepper balls and other chemical crowd control devices deployed. We also saw an ambulance come and go from the facility tonight. Many people out here throughout the day say they've been coming out day after day, including one protester who was pepper sprayed directly in the face 3 nights ago by ICE agents when she said she was peacefully standing her ground. She says she was thankful when she heard the ruling today, saying deploying more troops would just incite more violence.
We have lovely people who are just happy and they listen to music, they dance, they have a good time. We're a family. This is not any form of war. This is just people actually exercising their rights. And there has been violent protests. This isn't it.
However, throughout the week, we have seen numerous incidents between protesters and between agents and protesters involving physical and chemical force, including at least 8 arrests as of tonight throughout the week. Now, one of the incidents this evening actually involving conservative influencer Nick Sorter. Not long before the newscast, we saw video of an altercation where he was seen pushing an American flag through the crowd. That altercation also ending in an arrest of one person. Now, you may remember Sorter was arrested Thursday night on suspicion of disorderly conduct. I talked with him this evening before his court hearing tomorrow. He explains why he believes the deployment of federal troops here are justified.
What you have here is you have resources that are being taken up that could be used for actual federal law enforcement purposes. These guys, like ICE agents, Border Patrol agents, are being used to guard the facility out here rather than being out in the field, right? The National Guard should be deployed to guard the facility while agents are allowed to do the jobs that they're prescribed to do.
Now, Sorter expressed frustrations with Portland police, saying they had not given substantial evidence when it came to his arrest, and he says he plans to fight the case through. Meanwhile, Portland Police Chief Bob Day says his team of officers has been, quote, consistent and transparent when it comes to arrests during these ongoing protests. When talking about this week's arrests of Sorter, this is what Chief Day had to say.
And that's where we need to start bringing the temperature down, because we are seeing all of these different perspectives and all of these different opinions gather in this small 1-block area, and then unable to manage that in an appropriate way. And so we have these acts of violence, we have these fights, we have these assaults. They are occurring. We are doing investigations, we are making arrests, and we are sending those over to the district attorney's office for evaluation and hopeful prosecution. And we're going to continue to do that.
Now, we have reached out to Governor Tina Kotek, and we'll let you guys know if and when we hear back. But to reiterate, people say they will continue coming out here day after day to promote their cause, and they say it doesn't matter how long it takes. I'll leave you guys with one more look outside right now, and I'll be sure to check in with you guys in just a few moments. Right now, it seems like people are gathering once again outside of the facility, so we'll check back in a couple minutes. For now, live in South Portland tonight, Jennifer Singh, K2 News.
All right, thanks, Jen. So more breaking news tonight. Less than a few hours ago, Oregon leaders responding to the federal court's decision to block the president from deploying the National Guard. Governor Tina Kotek saying in the joint statement, quote, "This ruling is another validation of the facts on the ground in Portland. It is also a clear and forceful rebuttal to President Trump's misuse of state's National Guard." Portland Mayor Keith Wilson saying in the statement, quote, "The court affirmed what common sense tells us. If Portland doesn't need federal troops from Oregon, then we don't need federal troops from California or anywhere else." Attorney General Dan Rayfield also responding and applauding the swift response from the federal courts.
You have amazing people at the Department of Justice that will work all hours of the week, the weekend to protect Oregon's values. We'll keep you updated.
Attorney General also says in the statement with Wilson and Kotek, quote, the president can't keep playing whack-a-mole with different states' guard units to get around court orders and the rule of law." And while Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker says no federal officials called him to coordinate, Texas Governor Greg Abbott says he did authorize the deployment. Governor Abbott writing on social media, quote, "You can either fully enforce protection for federal employees or get out of the way and let Texas Guard do it. No guard can match the training, skill, and expertise of the Texas National Guard. They defend our country with pride." He adds that Texas still has thousands of National Guards assisting with border security. And earlier today, President Trump spoke about the first temporary restraining order ruling in Portland. Take a listen.
Well, if they put judges like that on, I wasn't served well by the people that pick judges, I can tell you. Things like that are just too bad. I appointed the judge and he goes like that, so I wasn't served well. Obviously, I don't know the judge, but if he made that kind of a decision, Portland is burning to the ground. You have agitators, insurrectionists. All you have to do is look at the television, turn on your television, read your newspapers. It's burning to the ground.
In that clip, the president refers to Judge Karen Immergut as a he. Judge Immergut is a woman. President Trump nominated her back in 2019. When talking to reporters today, President Trump pointed to the recent deployment of federal troops to Washington, D.C. He said that transformed D.C. from a, quote, hellhole to a safe place in just 12 days. And Katu's on your side. Just after the California deployment notice, we reached out to the White House to see what their legal justification was. The administration sent us this statement reading, quote, "President Trump exercised his lawful authority to protect federal assets and personnel in Portland following violent riots and attacks on law enforcement." Continuing, quote, "Gavin Newscom should stand on the side of law-abiding citizens instead of violent criminals destroying Portland and cities across the country." We will update you when we hear back from the White House. And as we've been reporting, the Trump administration did not inform California or Oregon about plans to deploy Gavin Newsom. That was also the case in Illinois this weekend. Yesterday, Governor Pritzker made an announcement about troops in his state being activated. Meanwhile, federal prosecutors are filing felony assault charges against a woman who was shot by U.S. Border Patrol in Chicago yesterday. The incident led to a heated confrontation between federal agents and around 100 protesters. According to a statement from the Department of Homeland Security, federal agents resorted to defensive fire after a woman rammed her vehicle into theirs. The statement adds the woman was armed with a semi-automatic weapon at the time. Despite this, she isn't facing weapons charges. She was treated at a hospital and later discharged into FBI custody. And the latest deployment of troops came as a federal judge found no legal basis for deploying state National Guard troops to Portland yesterday. The judge issued a temporary restraining order pausing the deployment for at least 2 weeks. The Trump-appointed judge's ruling criticized the Trump administration's reasoning. She said that it risked blurring the line between civil and military federal power. The judge emphasizing that the president's actions were, quote, simply untethered to the facts. The Trump administration has already filed an appeal. And since there's been so much back and forth, we wanted to learn more about the lawfulness of the president's National Guard deployments. So we took our questions to a constitutional law expert. Our questions are really quite simple. The judge's initial order blocked the president from sending in the National Guard into Portland. But does that mean President Trump cannot deploy the National Guard from other states?
Basically, you could say that he arguably would be complying with the letter of yesterday's ruling, but not the spirit of it. So the TRO, of course, concerned the litigation, which involved whether the specific question is whether the president could nationalize the Oregon National Guard for the purposes of protecting federal buildings in Oregon, particularly the ICE building. So here the president would be able to say, I'm not using the Oregon National Guard, I'm using the California National Guard.
Today, Oregon Attorney General Rayfield filed a temporary restraining order against the deployment of the California National Guard, and he prevailed. That means the president cannot send any National Guard troops in Oregon, that is, for now. And this is a breaking news story. We've been tracking it since it started last Friday. For an extensive look at what local and federal officials are saying, or a look at past press conferences, you can head to our website at katu.com. We're returning to breaking news. We've been checking in all night with our crew at the ICE facility in South Portland. That's where we can find K2's Jennifer Singh. Jen, you've been out there all day. What's the difference between the day and night crowds?
Well, there are actually a lot more people out right now at this hour than compared to the rest of the day. And I also want to point out, if you could see in the middle of the street, the wet parts, that's where people were spraying some kind of solution to get rid of the pepper ball powder that was kind of sifting up into the air and making people sneeze and also causing people to cough. Now, again, there are a lot more people than earlier in the day. If you saw, things during the daytime remained relatively peaceful, with people holding signs, yelling chants, and cars honking as they go by. It wasn't until around 8:30 or 9 when we saw tensions escalate. So far, we've seen at least 3 people taken inside the facility and also saw pepper balls and other chemical crowd control devices deployed. We also did see an ambulance come and go from the facility tonight, and people out here once again say they're prepared to come out here night after night. Now, we are still waiting on a lot of information from state leaders and the White House tonight. Again, we know the judge ruled against the Trump administration's deployment of the National Guard to Portland earlier today. But if you remember, 101 California National Guard members had already arrived here last night, Kotek said, unannounced. Now we are still waiting, as I said, for a lot of questions to be answered. But as you can see, it looks like this crowd is going to stay out here for quite a bit longer tonight. For now, live in South Portland tonight, Jennifer Singh, K2 News.
Thank you, Jen.